Good day, everyone. Today's topic is going to be about Ben Shapiro and why I don't like him. But before we get to his negatives, let's talk about his positives first. Ben Shapiro is an attractive, bright young man, which is good for image in the public and no homo to the attractive part, who knows how to expose the stupidity of the left and exposes, say, their contradictions or something like that whenever they say, like, yeah, I support cause X, but their actions are actually making it worse. So those are some good parts about Ben Shapiro. And here's the thing, I admit, I think he's a useful tool for the right in the sense that he's going to convert a lot of leftists either to being more moderate or he's going to make people conservative. In any case, I think he is doing some good by shifting people to the right. But at the same time, I do distrust him quite a bit, and I think he's actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, I think he's a neoconservative. For those who don't know, a neoconservative is someone who is a conservative, like fiscally, they support low taxation, low government spending, and all that stuff. Typically Republican, but this is the usually defining part of a neoconservative. They support unjust and unnecessary to the majority, that is, wars. Basically, wars not in self-defense. Now, I'm saying this because in 2005, at the age of 21, Ben Shapiro wrote an article about how the war in Iraq was good for America. And, that part doesn't necessarily bother me. I mean, Ben Shapiro's young. He couldn't have had that much of an influence, I could chalk it up to youthful folly at that time. But he went further, and that's the part that irks me. He actually said that the United States should intervene in almost all Middle Eastern countries, depose their dictators, and set up quote-unquote democratically elected governments. He didn't put quote-unquote, by the way, I'm doing that myself. And so basically he argued for a lot of interventionism. I get the feeling Ben Shapiro forgot part of the reason why the world doesn't quite like the U.S. It's because we stick our noses into everything. So, yeah. Which means Ben Shapiro doesn't exactly have a problem with the dead American bodies piling up, dead soldiers fighting for pretty much nothing, all right? Ben Shapiro, this was really interesting. In the article at some point it said that Ben Shapiro wanted, and this was written by Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro wrote that he wanted to even take out Syria. Well, he got his wish about several years, 10 years later, I guess we'll say, when Obama started bombing Syria. Yeah, great of Obama. You destabilized Syria, extended their civil war, and even strengthened ISIS because of that, because now Assad has to fight on multiple fronts. I guess Ben Shapiro has to say whoops on that, but he didn't. That's the scary thing. Because if you go forward in 2017, in April, late March, when Trump bombed Syria after that supposed chemical gas attack, and I say supposed because I don't think Assad did it. I still remember seeing a video from 5 or 4 years ago where it was proven that the first chemical attack wasn't even committed by Assad. So Ben Shapiro was still arguing to put a no-fly zone in Syria, at the very least, he claims. Doesn't Ben Shapiro understand that this would essentially cause us to potentially get into a confrontation with Russia? Because Russia's operating there for far longer than we have. By the way, this is the same thing Hillary Clinton and Obama wanted, and I don't recall Ben Shapiro coming out in public and saying, yeah, you know what, I happen to disagree with Obama and Hillary on most policies, except this one. So not only does this contribute to the belief that Ben Shapiro is a neoconservative, it certainly exposes him as a hyper-partisan, by the way. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. I mean, if you have an article or something, I'll link my evidence in the description, by the way, but feel free to prove me wrong. Now, by the way, in Ben Shapiro's defense, I will try to examine all, angles or whatever. In Ben Shapiro's defense, he did criticize Bush for his, I believe his second term or something like that. And Ben Shapiro did say he did not want John McCain nor Mitt Romney in 2008 and 2012, respectively. So, okay, that's evidence that Ben Shapiro might actually be a true conservative, might have been fooled by Bush or something like that, and he's trying to reform the Republican Party. But let me add this next piece of evidence. It's the fact that Ben Shapiro criticized Donald Trump in 2016. Now, by criticize, I should be specific. I don't mean criticize as... I'm not angry with him criticizing Trump by offering legitimate flaws of Trump. Trump had some failed businesses. He flops on a lot of issues. I consider myself to be a hard Trump supporter, but I can tolerate criticism from him as long as it's about policy, nothing about image or anything like that, because that's too subjective. and a very hypocritical, usually criticized image. But Ben Shapiro, in this article, didn't just criticize Trump on policy. He went so far as to say Trump was a racist, sexist bigot. Essentially, Ben Shapiro went full SJW mode on Donald Trump. Now, let me ask you this. What kind of conservative would do that? What kind of conservative would go so far as to call someone a racist, sexist bigot? That's what the left does. That's exactly how the left smeared Donald Trump in 2016, and Ben Shapiro should have known about this. So either he was massively ignorant about how the media was smearing him, or he fully knew it and he just enjoyed doing it. Frankly, I don't care. I don't accept the Clintonian defense. Let me answer you guys for asking what the Clintonian defense is. The Clintonian defense is when someone does something wrong and they say that they didn't know. Now, I know the context. Hillary was lying, but I'm going to expand this. I'm just going to say, you know what? It doesn't matter if they were lying their asses off or not. Ignorance is not an excuse. So anyway, the Clintonian defense basically says, hey, you know what? I did something wrong, but I didn't know I was doing something wrong. No, I reject that claim. So Ben Shapiro, you were either massively ignorant, or you basically had no problem taking advantage of the fact that the media called Trump a racist, sexist bigot, and you were hoping to crush him in the primary just by using these smear words, buzzwords. Excuse me. I think that's the phrase. Now let's move on to November 2016. What did Ben Shapiro do, or rather, what did he not do? He didn't vote for Trump. Now, I can understand the skepticism behind Donald Trump. I have friends themselves who voted for Gary Johnson instead of Donald Trump. But here's the thing. Their reasoning was that they were a little bit too, shall we say, afraid of Trump. They thought he was a sort of loose cannon. But they didn't play that whole racist, sexist, bigot argument, nor did they join Never Trump, okay? The reasons you did not vote for Trump matter. And by you, I mean to viewers or just people in general. And Ben Shapiro said he wouldn't vote for Trump. And he didn't. Yeah, great. You know what that means? He basically said, hey, you know what? I think Hillary and Trump are just about the same in terms of evil. It's funny, actually. In an article he wrote or another video, he actually said Trump is going to be worse than Obama in accelerating the destruction of this country because Trump apparently doesn't care about anything conservative. It was really funny in his early 2016 article, too, when Ben Shapiro claimed Trump would not appoint any conservative justices. Yeah, unlikely, he claimed. Yeah, that's funny, Ben. How is it that the average Joe like me was able to basically predict that Trump, to be correct in predicting that Trump would do this, and you weren't, Ben Shapiro? I mean, come on, did you really not have that much faith? I don't think so. I think Ben Shapiro's a neocon. I think he was afraid of basically an outsider taking power. All right. Now, granted, I don't know much about Ted Cruz. I mean, Ted Cruz might have been an outsider too, but I think Trump perhaps more so. I mean, he really was despised by the Republican Party. And as far as I'm concerned, these days, you know, if one party, if the two-party system doesn't like you, because Democrats hated Trump too, you're probably doing something right. By the way, I happen to disagree heavily with Ben Shapiro when he said that if we had just gotten another 4 years of Hillary, it would be another 4 years of Obama. And here's why. The Democrats understand. First off, they're extremely good manipulating image and using the media to their advantage. The point is, I truly do believe that if a conservative or a moderate conservative, average conservative, whatever you want to call Trump, did not win this year, I truly think we would not have free and fair elections come 2020. And by the way, it seems I'm a little bit correct in that whole not having free and fair elections thing. Just remember, the Democrats rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders, and WikiLeaks did publish this before the election. So, again, why didn't Ben Shapiro vote for Donald Trump? I mean, you kind of have to admit there's quite a bit of good reason to vote for him, just so that we can have our free and fair elections. Maybe the Democrats might reform in 2020. I doubt it, and I don't want them to be honest. I don't like the Democrats. Point being, I don't want rigged elections. And by the way, I am the kind of guy who believes that if Hillary Clinton rigged the Democratic primary, she probably tried to rig the general. But anyway, back to Ben Shapiro. That's essentially what he just said. He essentially just said Hillary is not as bad as everyone says. Let's not vote for the lesser of two evil. And I don't understand why he thought Trump was evil. I mean, I saw his criticisms; they were legitimate. But to call Trump evil, or just a not good candidate, no, I don't think that's true. No, I don't think that's the case. I think Trump is a fine candidate. Like I said, though, it's still confusing as heck. Why would Ben Shapiro support a neoconservative like Bush? And I mean heavily. That's the key word. Heavily. Back in 2005. Now, all of a sudden, Ben Shapiro says, yeah, you know what? I don't want to support the candidate who isn't a neocon. I mean, understand this. Just based on the issue of Syria alone, I think Trump was worth voting for. Now, Trump basically said he didn't want a no-fly zone in Syria. I don't think Trump has talked about interfering in Syria at all, except to destroy ISIS. But, aside from that one, I guess, hiccup of bombing Assad for that supposed chemical gas attack, which, by the way, I think he did it just to make it look like he still opposes the Russians. I mean, you have to understand, this was early April. This was before the James Comey revelations came through. Where he said basically that he wasn't even investigating Donald Trump. Anyway, that's my excuse. I wouldn't use it now. But anyways, I think Trump's largely a non-interventionist, and it doesn't really surprise me, I guess, that Ben Shapiro was against Trump. I mean, most neocons usually want more war, more suffering, and all that stuff. And by the way, this kind of kills Ben Shapiro's, say, pro-life platform. You know how he always argues against abortion and whatnot, and he says he's pro-life? Well, here's the thing. Ben Shapiro's not pro-life. He's just anti-abortion. To paraphrase George Carlin, Republicans are pro-life just in the sense that they want the baby to be born just so that they can be raised to go fight in foreign wars when they're 18, and then they can go die, basically. That's Ben Shapiro for you. I don't care if he doesn't know about this. By the way, the fact that he wanted a no-fly zone in Syria would pretty much push us closer to a confrontation with Russia, so that's real nice. That's where I'm getting all this anti-life stuff from Ben Shapiro. Basically, it would push us closer to a confrontation, and unfortunately, with the relations Obama caused with Russia, yeah, it could have led to some sort of conflict. It honestly could have led. Maybe the Syria would just turn into a direct battleground, like where Americans would fight Russians. Yeah, so there goes Ben Shapiro's pro-life argument. There goes his low taxation argument, assuming he's a real conservative. There goes his small government argument, because you're going to have to expand the military and possibly other agencies. Let's see, what else do we have to expand? Oh yeah, the budget. That means more government spending. Woohoo! Good on you, Mr. Shapiro. Yeah, that's real conservative of you. So yeah, here's the thing. It's not just that he supported Bush Jr. heavily. The reason I think Ben Shapiro is a neoconservative is a combination of his heavy support for Bush Jr., the fact that he said in his article that he wants to essentially invade every other Middle Eastern country out there and replace their dictators. I don't care for his reasoning, by the way. That's just more interventionism. We don't need it. And it's the fact that he didn't vote for the only non-interventionist who would actually win this campaign, win the election. I mean, honestly, Hillary Clinton would have gotten us into some sort of war. Yes, possibly World War III. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to go soft on her. That's probably what she would have gotten us into. And Ben Shapiro didn't support him. Oh, because Ben Shapiro claims he's a principled conservative. Well, again, the question has to be, why did you heavily support George W. Bush in 2005. Don't you understand? And by the way, for anyone who says that, Trump supported the Iraq War as well, just remember, Donald Trump gave a sort of half-hearted support for it. I believe he was interviewed. I don't remember what show. I remember seeing the clip. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, okay, we should go fight it, whatever. But then, I believe a year or two later, he starts going out heavily against it. And by the way, this is before he started running. So yeah, I think Trump was a bit sincere there. I think he was truly opposed to the Iraq War. Ben Shapiro, by the way, I don't recall you criticizing Hillary Clinton for that whole Syria thing. Yeah, doesn't that make you a hyper-partisan in a way? I mean, I don't recall you going out in public and saying, hey, Hillary Clinton, you're wrong on this. You're right on this. I support you. I support you on this issue. I don't support your presidency. I don't remember Ben Shapiro saying that. So yeah, it's a combination of all these bad things about him and all this interventionist crap coming from him that makes me distrust Ben Shapiro. So to conclude, I think he is a useful tool for the right. I think he is going to attract more conservative followers, but I do think he is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I absolutely do not want him running for office, okay? He would probably get us into another war, and here's the thing. I think he'd be very popular if he actually ran, assuming these articles don't get out, assuming nobody stands up to him over his interventionist views. So, yeah, you guys, those who like Ben Shapiro, you really need to be wary of this. Find yourselves a better guy to like. I mean, the United States needs to go back to a sort of isolationist stance, okay? Okay, everyone? That's about all. Mr. Conservative out.